I haven't done a video in a little while, so I thought I would share some green apples with everybody. And we're going to use 5 colors. We're going to use Permanent Green Light, Cobalt Green, Phthalo Blue, Green Shade, White, and Raw Sienna. And these are all golden paints. Okay, so what I did is I used a little bit of molding paste to put on the bottom of my piece. And I mixed my molding paste with Permanent Green Light and a little yellow. You can see here that there's a little yellow. And all I did was squirt it on and take an old credit card and a rake brush and gave it all these little lines in here. So first thing we need to do is separate our apples. So I tried to do a line that would be strong enough to, cover on the camera. But some of these apples are on top, some are on the bottom, some are hidden. So we know that this is one apple and this is another. So we need to separate these two. So what I'm going to do is I will take a little bit of that, get my paper towel. I will take a little bit of my phthalo blue green shade and pick up a little bit of the cobalt to make it a little bit darker. See that? And I will come here on the corner and I'm going to separate this apple from this other apple here. Okay, and I'm going to make it a little triangle. That's it. Why am I not making it black? Black is so strong that it's too strong that it just kind of takes away. So I will put a little bit of that color in here to separate these two guys. And I could do 20 of these and they'll all come out different. So when you're doing the video at home and you say, oh, it didn't come out like hers. No, it's going to come out like yours. And mine will come out like mine. And down the road, I do another one and it comes out like mine. Okay, so I separated this apple from this apple here, right? So I know that there's a little one in here, so I'm going to separate that same apple. I'm going to rinse my brush. I'm going to take a little bit of that phthalo blue and that cobalt green and make that dark again. And right here, there's a little separation between the apples. So I do this part first so that I know where my apples are, because I kind of lose them, if everything is the same color. So pick up a little bit more of that paint, cobalt green. Come right here on the edges and make that really sharp all the way to the top. There you go. Okay, so we have those little covers. Here we know that there's another separation. So I'm just going to separate these guys and let it fall to the side. Okay, so we know this guy is kind of like a green apple that's cut. This one is going to be white in the middle right here. These little areas are going to be white, but this is going to be dark green. So because this guy is in the shot, I'm just going to put a little bit of that color left over in my brush so I know where I'm going. It's just for guidance. Okay, so now I'm going to rinse my brush completely. And what brush am I using? A Ruby Satin Silver number 8. Let's see, can you see it on the camera? Number 8, Ruby Satin 2500 S round. Now to shade, I will use a Golden Natural number 16 2002 shader, and this is a flat brush, and this is, I would say, about 1 inch wide. And I want a big brush because I don't want a lot of stroke work. So I know this little guy here is mostly going to be white, but if I did him just white, it's going to be like, look, staring at you in the face, and there's too much contrast, right? So I'm going to take a little bit of that Permanent Green Light and mix it in there and tone down that white a little bit. So we know it's white, but I'm just putting my paint in. I'm not shading anything yet. I'm just kind of basically putting color. because an apple, if you cut it, it's not going to be just white on the inside. There's going to be some little shades of green. So why do it in 2 steps when you can do it all in 1 step, right? So there's my apple. And this one, I'm going to put a little bit of white in here also, because this is going to be another half an apple. So this little guy is going to be here. And I got to watch my cats. They want to grab all my brushes. What is it about cats? When you're doing something, they have to be like right here on top of you, right? They ignore you all day long. Okay, so this is going to be my white apple. Now we know we want to make this a little bit darker here, because this is going to be the apple with a little stem in it. So let's pretend that this area here is going to be dark, right? And the stem is going to come out of there. So I'll take my raw sienna straight as it is from the bottle, and I will just put my stem in there so I know that that's where my stem is going to be. And I know this guy has a stem, but we're going to wait a little bit because I will probably paint on top of it. How about we put another little stem in this guy here? We know it's there. We'll darken it, but right now we're just kind of outlining our pieces. So I'm going to rinse my brush completely. Okay. And I will rinse my big flat brush too. Now, when you're shading your apples, you're going to be highlighting and shading at the same time. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your permanent green light, which is the color that we started out with, right? Everybody can see that right there. Okay. This is the color we started out with, and I'm going to take some of my cobalt blue to make it just a tad darker. And I will come here on the edges of my apples to shade them a little bit. I want that yellow to show through. I'm not making this real thick. This is like a wash. So permanent green light, cobalt blue. Take the side of the brush. See how I'm doing that? I'm not mixing it all together, and only the side of my brush here has paint. So the side of my brush here, it's a wash. You can tell because of that little shine there. And this little guy in here is going to be darker. So I will outline it now so that I know that's going to be darker. And what I want to do is take this permanent green light, take it on my brush, and start highlighting. Put a little color here, then take a little bit of white and put it right here on the side and walk it out. Okay? So what I'm doing is, because I have so much texture on my paint here, what I'm really doing is highlighting and shading, but I'm just right now dropping my color. So I know this part of my apple is going to be a lot lighter. I know this apple here in the back is going to be a little bit lighter. So I will put a little color on there. And while this guy is still wet, I will take my green, cobalt green, blend it in my brush, flat again, see that? Come around the edges here and give it a little bit of a darker color. So this apple is going to be a lot darker on the sides here because he's in the back, right? This is the little guy that's in the back. So let me take my cobalt green again, mix it in here, and take your time when you're doing this. I can get lost in this. I mean, I can just do this for hours. Okay. Go back to this little guy and put some more. It looks blue right now, but it's going to be green. Watch. A little bit of that green. Rinse my brush. Take a little bit of white and just come here. And by highlighting it while it's still wet, Okay, now we have a bottom one here. This is like a light green. So I will come straight with my permanent green light and just brush it around the edges here. Okay, and leave it alone. We know this is going to be permanent green light, so I'm going to take a little bit of that in my cobalt, and I'm going to go right here on the edge of that apple and accent it a little bit more. See that? Now I didn't want some of that green to go in there, so I'm going to take it off. Okay. Now, in between these guys here, they're two clustered together here. So I'm going to move over to my number 8 brush. And again, take my phthalo green and my phthalo blue and my cobalt green. And I'm going to separate these three guys because see how they're close together? So I'm going to make like a little triangle to pretend that they are separated. Okay. Let me move this back a little bit because the texture is sucking this paint up. Okay. So I want to shade a little bit of a lighter color here because I know that this guy on top is totally white. So I'm going to take my permanent green light, very soft. See, and I will wash a little bit of that color here on the edge of that. I'm going to move a little bit of this cobalt green to the top here where I know my apple is separated. And here I'm going to make this a little bit wider. But I'm doing that now because we have enough color underneath here that when it seeps through, it's not going to be white, white, white. It's going to, see that? Okay. I will take this area here and make it darker. So again, my phthalo blue with my cobalt green, but now I'm going to actually shade. So I will take that color and bring it all the way to the edge. I will go around this apple here because we know there's a little apple back here, right? And I want to take some of that white and make this a little bit brighter. So you got to take your time because when you're working with texture, the texture tends to suck up your paint, which is what you want because it gives it dimension. Okay. So now we need to lighten this guy up. So let's take a permanent green light, some white, and mix it together and get it to be a light green. And voila. It's getting to be lighter. Same thing here on the bottom one. Do the same thing. And it's lighter. This little guy here, I'm going to turn him around. We want some of that raw sienna and a little bit of that cobalt green, and we will darken this a lot because this is where our stem is. Remember how our stem was in there? So this little guy is going to come up here. And again, we're going to take a phthalo blue and a cobalt green, mix it. And now it's too blue, I'm running out of green. So what I do is I take a little bit of my cobalt green again, put it on my palette. Mix it a little bit with my blue. Better. Okay, so this little guy here is gonna be shaded. Oh, now it looks like a little olive. But let's get them to be round. There we go. And I will make this a little bit rounder right there. Okay. Now, this little guy right here, okay, needs to be round. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this permanent green light and I will take a little bit of that cobalt green to make my permanent green light a little bit darker and my cobalt green a little bit lighter. Tap it on my paper towel, right? Now, this little guy here, I will stretch a little bit more so that it's not so round, okay? And I will go back to my number 8 brush, and with my permanent green light, and a little bit of white, I will come right here and lighten my little apple up. Right here, lighten my little apple up. Take some pure white, rinse your brush, and move that white, tap it, tap it, tap it. Nice. Okay. Pick up a little bit of that cobalt green and let's just bring that up a little bit. I will take my raw sienna and that little cobalt green, and I will give myself a little stem right here for now. We'll come back to the stem. Okay, now that we have all our apples kind of sorted out, now we know we have 1 apple, 2 apples, 3 apples, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to take light green because now we have all our colors here. And we're really gonna make those apples green now. So let me cover this up. Okay, so now time to lighten up. So we started out with dark, we went with medium colors, and now we're gonna lighten it up, right? Because we want these apples to be light green. So in here, I will start with this one. I will take my number 8 brush, pick up a little bit of that light green. I will start right here. Move it around, come right here at the end, do the same thing. Good. And it has a little bit of that light green right in here, right? Like a little shadow. We're gonna do that one twice. But we're gonna go right here and add some of that little light green. Rinse my brush completely. Blend those colors in. And then in the middle here, I'm gonna take a little bit of that raw sienna and just kind of put a little color in there for now. I will take some of my white and put it in my background here. Doesn't have to be everywhere, just so that you have different levels or different tones, I should say, of the white. See that? And why am I putting the white again? Because number one, I want it to be wet. I want my surface to be wet when I put my light green on it. Because if my surface is dry, what's going to happen is it's gonna have too much of a variation of color, too much of a value, right? So I will rinse that out. I will take a little bit of my green here, and I'm gonna throw some of the green in here, right? Because that's where my little stem will be. We'll take a little bit of this phthalo blue-green color here, and I will make a little line in here, very small. Okay, and with the raw sienna, I'm gonna darken that up a little bit. I will put a little pit in here, just one. You know, there's a pit in there, and I will put a little pit right in here. And I will put some of that sienna color here, because this is the bottom of my apple, and I want you to be able to see it. And I'm going to take some of that light green and my permanent green and shade a little bit in there. Okay. Put more white, like we did it with the one on top. There we go. Now, I will take my flat brush again, and I'm going to start lightening up these guys. So I will take my light green, right? And I will lighten up that apple. Now see that by doing all those coats underneath it before, now when you go to lighten up this apple, it's really gonna look light. If you did it from the beginning like that, it wouldn't look all like green apples. Come back here, make that a little bit stronger, coming up. And I will take a little bit of white and just put a little highlight right there. Now you see the idea? So this guy is now light green. This guy is gonna be light green. So we're gonna come back here, make this guy light green. And there he is. There's a little one light green here. Put him back in there. Turn this around. Maybe there's one back here. So let's make this guy light green also. And I am going to highlight this green apple right here. This little guy here, we almost forgot about him. He has to be a light green. Okay, we got to put more of that color right in here. So I will take my light green, come back. Nice, right? Now, this little guy here should be a little bit straighter. So I will take my brush and make it a little bit straighter. Whoops, didn't want that water drop in there. I'm gonna turn him around, flatten him out a little bit. And I am going to make that center a little bit darker. So I will come here, whoops, too dark. Take my yellow, there. and put a little bit of that yellow on the edge here of my apple, because we have a green apple, right? Okay. We're gonna take a little bit of this green and a little bit of this dark green here, and I am going to get us this little apple. Okay. Now we need to highlight this guy just a tad more, and we're gonna tone down that little green. So again, I'm gonna take, see how you have to do layers, layers, layers. I always tell people do layers and it's gonna come out so much nicer. So take your light green, white, give it a little highlight. Give this guy a little highlight right there. This one has one here. Rinse your brush and tap it so that you know you have a highlight, but it's not so strong, okay? So now this little guy here, we're gonna separate a little bit with the cobalt green. Just gonna take a little tad of it. We're almost done. And come right in here. A little bit stronger, let's see. There we go. And separate these guys. Come this way. And separate this one. Okay. We need to separate this one from this one. So we will take again the cobalt blue. See, if you take your time and do your shadings first, then because it's darker, you can find your apples. If you did it the other way around when you're painting something this light, I don't know about you, but I kind of lose them. It's like, where did my apple go? Okay, so take this again, shade it. Nice. This little guy needs to be brighter because I know there's an apple there, but I don't see him. And I will take a little bit of this brown and my phthalo blue, and I'm going to just darken that a little bit. Take my number 8 brush and work it out. That little guy there needs a little highlight right here. And a stem, right? Needs a little stem. So take my raw sienna and just do a little stem. This guy needs a stem. But it needs a big stem because he's the biggest apple. So let's bring his stem all the way up to here. There we go. This little guy here needs to have a stem also, and I will put some white in it so you could see it. Nice, 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 nice. Okay, we need to shade this little area here because this is this like nothing going on here. See that? This is all like kind of smushed in here. So we need to separate this guy from this one here. So how we're gonna do that? Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take, first of all, I'm gonna take my green light and I will flatten this guy out so that he looks like he's on top. And I'm gonna put some of my green there. And then I'm gonna take my white and go over it so that it blends really good. Rinse my brush and take my light green with my cobalt green, and right here, need a little bit more, not dark enough, cobalt green, and let's see, can you see me in the camera? Yes. Go right here and Bring your color. Didn't want all that blue in there. That's okay. Bring it down and around. Now, what I noticed here is this should be more white coming up here, because this is the whitest part of our apple. So I'm gonna bring this guy up a little bit more flat. There we go. And this little guy is right there. Now that looks better. This is supposed to be very narrow up here because the apple is sideways, and then this is gonna be darker here. That's what was, something was bothering me there and I couldn't figure out what it was. Okay, so come back here and then again straighten this out and give yourself a little shading right in here. Much better. And then this guy comes out here. Yeah, I'll fix this in a minute. Don't panic yet. Mixing what I have. And bring that brown also into here. We lost a little pit. Now I'm going to fix that little area there. Whoops, here's my flat. Take my permanent green light with a little bit of my phthalo blue and some brown maybe. And there, okay. Now that looks like a half an apple, right? And it needs to be dark right there. Yeah, let's put a little bit of dark right in here. And now we've separated those apples. So now this guy is on top of this guy. This guy, we don't have to make that background so in your face. It's a little bit too much. So I'm just gonna open it up a little bit and there. So you know, apple, apple, apple. Put a little bit of shading here. Apple. And then this little guy here, we'll take a little bit of this, go kind of straight. Let me do cobalt green. Let me go do cobalt green so it's not so strong. And I will do kind of almost like a straight line. There we go. Yes, that's what we needed. So I will walk this out. Okay, now take a look around and see what you need. This here needs a little bit of brown. So we'll take a little bit of that raw sienna and mix it in here. Yes. Put a little white right here. Yeah. Like it, like it, like it. Let me make this guy a little bit whiter here. And there. Okay, so what do you think? Done? Needs to be a little bit darker there. So again, let's take a light green, cobalt, and let's just shade this guy, because this should be darker right here. There we go. And put a little dot right at the end here. With some brown. Take your finger, tap it. Rinse your brush. Come here and get rid of some of that. Okay, I think this baby is done. Oh, this little guy I can barely see. So no, it's not done. So make it a little stronger. There we go. And the little green can just come here. Done? You think done? Done? Okay. Put a little highlight here, because we know that's the stem for this little guy. And he has to go all the way in. Yeah. We forgot about this guy. Oh my goodness, we forgot about this guy. Okay, so take a little bit of white and some green and just highlight a little bit of it. Rinse it. And last but not least, pick up a little bit of your cobalt green and round him up a little bit. Okay, I would say this little guy is done. I hope you liked watching this little video. If you want to get the kit, it includes the wood and all the paints, and the surface is already primed with the medium, so you don't even have to worry about that. Just order it through my website, chriscruzdesigns@gmail.com. No, that's my email, chriscruzdesigns.com. And if you have any questions, just send me an email. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy your day.